This is where we got to start. Electrical terms. If you don't understand what the words mean or the properties of this stuff, you will never ever understand how it works. If you don't understand the relationship between these and what you want to do with it, you'll never get it. So let's just take off with this. Voltage. Everybody has heard the word. Nobody knows really what it means if you're brand new. It is electrical pressure or potential. Amps. Amps, if you draw a line, that is the speed at which electrons pass that line. Speed of electrons past a given point. Ohms is the resistance to that flow. Ohms resist amps. Wattage is actual electrical work. Good way to look at it is volts push amps through resistance to create electrical work. Ohm's Law says the electrical current flowing in a circuit is proportional to the voltage and inversely proportional to the resistance, or 1 volt pressure at 1 amp flow with 1 ohm of resistance equals 1 watt. To find amps, it is voltage divided by resistance. To find volts, it's amperage time resistance. To find ohms, voltage divided by amps. To find the wattage, voltage times the amps. There are 4, as we can see here, there are 4 basic parts to this. If you know any 2, you can find the other 2. Let's do some examples. All right, I've been teaching this stuff for quite a while, a few decades, and I figured the best way I found to make this easier to understand is to turn it into something like this. People have a hard time with electricity because it is abstract and not tangible. Most people understand hydraulics, they understand fluid dynamics, things like that, because it's something you can see and how it reacts and everything. Electricity is the same way. One physical rule we have is everywhere is all pressures want to be equal. So if you blow a balloon up and let go of it, the air inside the balloon is trying to be equal with the air outside the balloon. Everything wants to be that way. And that's exactly how electricity works. And what I've done here, this is my version of a coin-operated car wash. You go put your quarters in, the water pump comes on, and the water flies out and hits the car and knocks the dirt off of it. This should help. This has helped a lot of people understand what I'm trying to say. And once again, if you understand that once you have 2, you can find the third and the fourth. So let's exercise that theory a little bit. This water pump, when you put your quarters in, you hear the buzzing sound. That'd be the water pump pumping the water. Let's say it's got 120 pounds of pressure. Let's call it 120 volts. Let's say that the water is going through this hose. This is the hose. This is the water. It flies out and hits the car. The hose size is going to be your resistance, and the amperage will be how fast the water, whether you measure it by feet per second or however you measure it. When it goes by that arrow right there, we call that amperage. That's that measurement of kind of speed through there. So let's just start with have 2 knowns. Let's call it 120 pounds of pressure, and let's say 2 feet per second water speed. So we'll call that 2 amps. Now let's do this real quick and figure out, if we got the 2, we got 120 and we got 2. So let's figure out how many watts there is. So this right here says if we want watts, we volts times amps. So 120 times 2 equals 240. Now wattage is what is electrical work. This is what we want the electricity to do. So for right now, let's say 240, we're doing the amount of work to knock, say, 240 square inches of dirt off this car. The water that actually flies out of the hose hits the car and knocks it off. is wattage. That's electrical work. That's what we're trying to do. So if you decide what you want your circuit to do as we go along with this, if you want a 50 watt guitar amp to build one of those, you got to start right here and understand this right here to make that ever happen. If you want to figure it out yourself and not just copy it like a parrot. So I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's figure out how many ohms of resistance this hose is. We know 3. We've got 120 pounds of pressure. The water speed's 2 amps, and it's knocking 240 square inches of dirt off the car. So this says we want to know the ohms. It's voltage divided by amps. So 120 volts divided by 2 is 60 ohms. If you have any questions, write them down here in the comments and we'll work it over. Holler at me and I'll email you these here if you want me to. And see you next time. Thank you.